The trail of the 3rd Army and the 19th Tactical Air Command of the 8th Air Force is marked by more than 40,000 white crosses. 40,000 dead Americans.
We were young and soldiers called to dedicate our lives in the name of God and country. Do what's just, boys. Go do what's right. A hot band of brothers waiting on our chance to add one more page unto the victory dance. Here am I, Lord, send me, send me. Victory lies in the spirit of the lives of the men who died for me.
Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?" And I said, "Here am I. Send me."
This is Michael Broderick, Marine Corps veteran, actor, and Gallant Few board member. You are listening to the New American Veteran on Vets on Media. Now here's Carl Monger.
Thank you, Michael, and welcome everyone to the New American Veteran. Today I'm going to interview Jennifer Jamison, who's a veteran who has suffered through tragedy that's really impossible for me to even wrap my mind around. We're going to talk about the impact of that on her life and what she's doing now to try to get legislation enacted so that others do not go through the same tragedy that she has gone through. She's going to save lives. And I have talked a lot on previous shows and in my blog about the power of one. And when you hear what this gal is doing, Jennifer Jamison, she definitely has the power of one. Hey, I'll bet you're wondering, what the heck is this thing? Well, this is an awesome slingback that I just got from VanQuest Gear. Our newest sponsor. Kind of makes me look like I'm pregnant when I do it this way. But what's really cool about this thing, I got it loaded up with all kinds of stuff because tomorrow I'm heading out for SOFIC and the Care Coalition Conference in Tampa, Florida. It's got this cool compartment on here that is all set up for concealed carry rig. It's got Velcro on the inside there to hold your holster in place. It's got a gazillion pockets all around the outside. I can't even begin to go through all of the stuff that's on here. When I look at it like this, it's almost like a reserve chute getting ready to go jump. Hey, you can get one of these too. And not only that, but you can get one at a discount and you'll benefit Gallant Few. So if you go VanQuest Gear, there, if you can take a look at their sticker, and vanquest.com, use the discount code Alexandria, Alexandria, Alexandria. They're going to donate a portion of that sale to Gallant Few, and you're going to get 10% off. And I really like this thing, so we're going to see how it works on the trip. Make sure you check out VanQuest Gear and support our newest sponsor. And today we're going to welcome Jennifer Jamison to Gallant Few of the New American Veteran. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Tell me what you have going on.
Well, I'm a veteran and I have followed your site for a long time. I've been out for several years now, but I promote you guys to all of my friends who are just coming back into the civilian world, and including my husband. And I was just in Austin trying to promote some legislation to save lives, and I thought, what better community to reach out to than Gallant Few? You have a large following, and I would hate to have something like what happened to my family happen to any of your followers, which is my husband, Javier Zamora, was a staff sergeant in the U.S. Army for 16 years in the Army. He did 4 years in the Marine Corps. Came home from a combat tour in Iraq and was killed by a distracted driver.
Wow. How long ago was this?
Javier was killed in 2007. Yes.
And so based on that tragedy in your life, you have worked to try to prevent distracted driving.
I have. I've been involved in Texas legislation, trying to get a bill passed since 2009. And my 15-year-old daughter at the time of the accident, she was in the car with her dad when the accident happened. It was a very violent collision. She suffered from PTSD from the collision, and of course other teenage angst. And she lost her battle with grief and PTSD in October and took her own life. So I've kind of renewed my my forces to get this bill passed in the Texas legislation this session. So,
well, I don't even have words that are adequate to say how much I'm sorry for your loss. And you're a very brave woman to be able to take that, turn around, and try and, I mean, to use that as a base to make other people's lives change, for them to not have the same kind of horrific event that happened to your family now twice. That speaks a lot to your strength and your dedication. So
yeah.
My thanks for doing that for our community.
Thank you.
I want to backtrack just a little bit. Would you tell me just a little bit about your military service?
Absolutely. I enlisted as soon as I could. I was 17. It was a month after my 17th birthday. I did 12 years in the aviation community with Blackhawks and Cobras and Hueys, and safety was, that was a big word in my military experience. And that's where I met Javier. We were in the same aviation battalion. He was an aircraft refueler. Although when he went to Iraq, they made him a door gunner, so he got to fly around and do that. I'm sorry?
He probably preferred that over.
He did prefer that a little bit more than driving the fuel trucks in convoys across the Iraq landscape, yes. Yeah, aviation safety is a big word in that community. And when I got out, I did aviation air operations. So when I got out, I joined the FAA, and I do aviation weather now in Texas. And but the bigger thing is that Texas is one of the few states that doesn't have a texting and driving ban. They have.
Was the other driver texting? Is that?
She was reaching for her. She was driving with 3 other individuals, including an infant in her car, and she reached behind her seat to get to her purse, which had her phone in it. Her wheels went off the shoulder, and she overcorrected and hit Javier's car head on. That collision ejected him from the vehicle. The crash was so violent that his driver's seat was actually disengaged from the mounts in the car. And amazingly, my daughter had one little scratch on her nose. What we didn't know at the time, she had always claimed that she did not remember the accident. But what we realized later is not only did she remember, but she remembered in detail. And it's so crazy, being in a military environment and being subjected to combat PTSD. It was a word that we knew well through family and friends that had deployed with us. But I never associated a car crash with those symptoms. And so that was not something, I mean, we did the grief counseling. The military was fabulous in giving us, our grief support. Fort Hood here in Texas provided somebody that would check on us regularly and help us navigate through all of that. But I never, ever associated PTSD with a car crash until I lost my daughter. And as a military mom, you kind of kick yourself in the ass for it. But so the best I can.
Go ahead.
Oh, the best I can do now is protect the people that are in my life and in my community from the same type of tragedies. And through all of our military safety briefings, don't drink and drive. Don't drive drowsy, pull over, get some rest. But not once did I ever, and of course, I grew up in a time before cell phones, but at the end of my military career, not once did I ever hear a commander or a safety briefing say, hey, by the way, don't, text and drive. Don't use your phone and drive. Just, focus on driving because that's a big piece of equipment and it needs your full attention.
Now, did you help to author this legislation, or are you helping someone else who's authored the legislation?
I did not help author the legislation. Representative Tom Craddock, who is out of the West Texas region and district, authored that with, and it's a bipartisan bill. There are no Republicans or Democrats or anything. This is a safety issue, and so it's a bipartisan product, which has a tremendous support, but it only takes 13 detractors, and we have those 13 detractors, unfortunately. And being in Texas, I understand we're all for our freedoms, and we don't want to be a nanny government and a nanny state, and I get that. Except that when you're talking about the largest and most prolific consumer product being your automobile, and the most prolific consumer product being your cell phone, utilizing the two of those together is disaster waiting to happen. And it happens 400,000 times a year. I mean, if I bottled up everybody that is killed by a distracted driver just from texting and driving and put them in an airplane and crash that plane because the pilot was on a cell phone, we'd have legislation in a week. But because this happens nationally in small communities, small families grieving, it's not a big national media thing. And but we're losing these people. Over 3,000 lives are lost. 403,000 people a year are killed or injured or maimed. And that's the worst part. I mean, Javier was killed. He suffered very briefly before he passed, but he wasn't left impaired for the rest of his life in a vegetative state, which is what would have happened if he hadn't have left us. He was so severely damaged. So, and even in the case in I believe it was Minnesota, a soldier returned from a combat tour, was on his phone updating his banking, and he killed a mother of 3. And is doing time for that. We don't want that. We want our troops to come home, be safe, be responsible, and enjoy their families and stuff. They've sacrificed enough by being over there and doing their time. Let them come home and be safe and enjoy their families. And this is one way that I can help them do that, is to educate them and hope that they would support this legislation.
Tell me, what's the difference between the laws that are on the books now against inattentive driving and adding this distracted driving law to it?
So when we're talking about the laws that are on the books now, obviously we have student drivers. If you're under 18, you can't use your cell phone and drive. We get that. We have the laws that really focus on recklessness. Are you willfully and wantonly causing harm to somebody with your vehicle by swerving in and out of traffic or something? That's hard to prove if somebody's just texting. Well, no, I wasn't intending to hurt anybody. I wasn't intending to drive out of the lane. I wasn't intending, to run that red light. Which those laws were really created for people who are, driving recklessly on purpose. I'm trying to evade the, law enforcement, or I'm trying to get away from somebody. Those are what those laws were intended for. This law specifically says distracted driving, texting and driving has a penalty, and it's against the law, and it's really an educational based. This is just the beginning. I mean, you have states that have and municipalities in Texas that have hands-free. You cannot be on your phone at all, and this law would not
like that in the school zones now,
right? Which we would love to see on. Yeah, we would love to see that across the state, because as much as I enjoy being safe in the school zone down the street, I want to be safe out on the highway when people are doing 70, So, and as a victim, I would like to have a law that says you broke a law and now you owe my family compensation, because right now we're not seeing that judgment. We're not getting any justice in Texas, because they're not breaking the law in most cases. So
how can people affect this now? You said, when we talked on the phone the other day, you said that the law is it's dead right now. It's not going anywhere within the legislature. What's the next step? What can people do to help support this?
Right. So, so we had the House part of the legislative body voted it through. It went to the Senate.
And this is Texas. State of Texas. State of Texas.
In Texas, we are talking Texas.
Clarify that we're talking about a state.
We are in Texas, yes. So in Texas, the Senate had the bill on their calendar, and we had 13 senators that banded together and had it removed from the calendar, which meant that they couldn't vote on it and they didn't debate it. So it was basically postponed, and we're hoping as the Texas Coalition for this, that they will put it back on the calendar for next week, debate it, and vote. So what I'm asking is, if you are in Texas and you care about your family's safety on the roads, as well as your own, please contact your senator and let them know that this bill is important to you. I really feel like, and I drive to Austin at least 3 times a month, and being on that road, driving down there and seeing all the craziness that people do behind the wheels is very frustrating when I'm trying to get this bill passed. But I think that they've lost touch with really representing their communities, and I think people have really stopped getting involved in their political process. And I'm guilty of it. I was not involved. I couldn't tell you how a bill passed to save my life prior to losing Javier. But darn it, this is my country and I want it back. And I want them to represent my voice. And the louder I scream and the more people that scream with me, the more I can claim my government back. And so if they would just get involved, and you can pull this bill up online, it's Texas HB House Bill 80. And you can pull it up online and read the text of it and see who's supporting it and see how your senator has voted for it, and give them a call and either say, thank you, I really want this bill to pass, or hey, you know, I see that you're not supporting this and this is really important to me and my family and my community. And that's what I want them to do.
Do you know what the mobile phone companies, or Verizon, AT&T, are they weighing in on this? Are they pressuring those 13 senators, or are they?
Well, so the cell phone companies, they all have their educational kind of assets that they go out and they do the It Can Wait campaign, which I have a nonprofit that's a national nonprofit called StopDistractions.org, and we get a grant from AT&T to provide speakers for their It Can Wait campaign. So yes, AT&T is very much involved in what we do. As far as promoting legislation, they're most of the phone companies are kind of, hey, we're doing the education part, we're gonna leave the legislation part up to, you know, you guys, so that they're not in there saying, hey, my product kills people. So it's a very fine line that they walk. But I know that they have a great program. AT&T does. I know that Toyota, as a car company, has supported us. When I started this in 2009, we have a media day where we go to the Texas legislation and we go door to door and we say, hey, this bill is coming up. In 2009, I had kind of a couple bumper stickers that I made, and some other families brought flyers. It was really kind of mom and pops kind of thing. And this 2015 session, we had every major corporation, AT&T, Toyota, Nationwide Insurance. I mean, we had a goodie bag of swag, of very cool products that we took around. So we are garnering support in the industries. But what we're not getting is, you know, past that, we don't need bigger government in our cars. Well, you make me wear my seatbelt, and that would only hurt me if I crashed. So why are you not, you know, telling people, hey, what you're doing is killing other people, so you can't do that. So
point. You also have the number 2, decide2drive.org.
I do, and that was an organization that I created in honor of Javier, and you can visit that site and read my story. And last year, leading up to the anniversary of his passing, I did a journal. It was called 26 Days. And you can read that on there. And I kind of documented, starting from August 1st to August 26th when he was killed, what the day was like and how we didn't know we were going to lose you in 26 days and what that meant to us and what we were doing and what we would have done differently. It's a very powerful kind of journaling of losing someone in such a short amount of time and what you would do different. Very powerful. So.
Well, I got to say, I'm knocked over by what you're doing with this. And I'm definitely going to go check that out. I'm going to go see what my personal state senator does or doesn't do in regards to this. And I think encouraging people to find out and weigh in is important to do. So thanks for sharing, you know, the tragedy that you have gone through as a wife and a mother. I mean, it's astounding. And for you to take that tragedy and use it to motivate you to save other lives it's very inspiring and it's motivating. So,
well, thank you. Thank you. And I, in honor of Maxine, I created livetothemax.org. Her name was Maxine. And that page focuses on the mental health side of this issue and suicide prevention and PTSD support and community involvement in that as well. So yeah, I guess I advocate. That's how I grieve.
Well, thanks for doing that. And thanks for being on the New American Veteran. Anytime that you have any updates you want me to push through the network, I will be glad to do that.
Oh, thank you. Yes. And hopefully we can get this on the bill next week and I can have some good news and get it through. So.
Yeah, and we want to have you come back on the show down the road and let us know how everything's going, what the update is.
It would be my honor, and I very much appreciate your time and getting the word out and getting people involved in the community.
Jennifer, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you so much, Carl. You have a pleasant day.
You too. Thank you. Well, that's it for the show for today. If you're going to be in Tampa for SOFIC, I'll be out there for the Care Coalition Conference. Look me up. Let's connect. The following week on Monday, Memorial Day. And as my friend Mike Schlitz says, don't wish somebody a happy Memorial Day, because the purpose of Memorial Day is to remember those that have given their lives so that we can remain free. So let's have a meaningful Memorial Day, or remember Memorial Day. That's what we want to say. Remember Memorial Day. Thank you and God bless. Thank you for listening to Gallant Fuse, the New American Veteran. Special thanks to Michael Broderick, Kenny Thomas, Tim Abel, Jim O'Farrell, and Madison Rising for permission to use their audio recordings on this broadcast. That rendition of Taps is a public domain recording created by a soldier or employee of the United States government and as such is not subject to copyright protection. This has been a production of Gallant Fuse, the New American Veteran, a proud member of the Vets on Media Global Network, all rights reserved. Learn more at www.gallantfew.org.